I'm Greg Miller, and you're listening to Rabbit Hole Media. It kind of sounds gross, but I don't think it is.
Hello and welcome to Press Start, your weekly video game podcast right here on Rabbit Hole Media. I am one of your hosts, Kristian, and as always and as usual, I am joined by Jack Netley Thompson.
I'm being attacked by lower thirds.
Yes, so the lower thirds are in your face. I realise.
They're a bit aggressive at this moment in time.
It's fine.
I have never had more difficulty not speaking during an intro, specifically because you told Charlie not to speak during the intro. I've struggled so hard to not just go.
That was a very good clicker.
I thought to WhatsApp Jack and just be like, should we just fuck this around? I was like, no.
Joining us this week, as well as Jack, we have special guest and his second time on the channel, big Last of Us fan, Charlie Cooper. Charlie, how are you? Thank you for coming along.
Thanks for having me again, guys. I'm very well. How are you both?
I would
Fine and dandy. I've just been hit in the face with a follow us.
What? Oh, I see. I was about to say I'm adequate. I am adequate, which is that's about it. That's all I got.
I'm fine and dandy now that I'm back here, because just my footsies were hurting today.
Oh,
I don't know why
mate,
today in particular.
my
But
feet.
my footsies.
Yeah.
I've been sat down for fucking 12 weeks. So then they go stand up for 8 hours, and you're like, what? What is this outrageous request?
Yes, I feel you. I feel you on that one. It's yeah, it's been tough. This is Press Start, your weekly video game podcast right here on Rabbit Hole Media. If you like what you're doing, and what you're doing is watching us, you can follow us on Twitter at rabbithole_UK. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, where you can see us anytime that you wish. You can follow us on Twitch at Rabbit Hole Media, and you can subscribe and follow on multiple different podcast services on and around the internet.
Indeed.
And if you would like to support us, head to merch.rabbitholemedia.co.uk, where you can buy a wide-ish range of merchandise that will only get wider. Right, this week's episode is a little bit unusual for anyone listening and for anyone watching. I'm going to give you the warning now. This will be full spoilers from the beginning for The Last of Us Part 2, so this is your chance to back out if you've not yet played the game or do not want it spoiled for you. If at this point you continue to listen, it's on you.
I would just like to rephrase, just in case any of that was misunderstood, because it was worded oddly. Spoilers for the entire game,
Absolutely.
not just the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
From the beginning of the show is what was meant here.
Yes.
It will be full spoilers. Joel's an elephant type details.
Yep.
Of The
Absolutely.
Last of Us 2.
Absolutely.
I just want
Yes.
I'd like to say, as I did last time I was on, if you've not played The Last of Us, stop watching this, fuck off and go and play The Last of Us.
Absolutely.
1 and 2.
Absolutely.
pretty much we're only going to have Charlie on episodes where it's relevant for him to say that.
You could do like a pre-recorded if that needs to be said by not there, that my head just sort of pops into frame and just says some reviews and leaves.
This will be a slightly different structure for regular listeners and viewers of the podcast, as well as we will not be going through the normal segments of Press Start. This is purely for us to discuss The Last of Us Part 2 in detail with full spoilers. With that in mind, I don't know how we want to approach this. So, Jack, you and I have already had a chat on this show about The Last of Us. So I feel like before we get nuts, before we go deep into this, before we start really plowing into it, before we start really going to the driving range, Charlie, what are your overall thoughts and opinions on The Last of Us Part 2?
I had to sit with it for a good couple of days, really figure it out. And it's the one time I've ever played a game I absolutely loved, pretty much didn't enjoy a single second of.
yeah, I get you.
Someone that I work with described the game as 10 out of 10, would not recommend.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
No,
I agree with that.
When Rich messaged me just saying he was starting, I was like, enjoy. And I was like, wait, that's the wrong choice of words. I hope you can tolerate emotional trauma.
Yeah, there's...
I hope you can deal with it. And then at that moment, at the moment, he just sent me a picture of him like very welled up. And I was like, I concur. I concur with that sentiment.
Charlie, in terms of moment-to-moment gameplay, and we'll get into the story details in a second because I want to keep it. I want to keep a certain amount of structure, not for the sake of avoiding spoilers, but just so otherwise this would just be a rambling nonsense for 2 hours, and we need a certain amount. We need a certain amount of structure. It's still going to be rambling nonsense.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It is rabbit hole after all.
I mean, I even tried to employ a structure for all of our movie spoiler casts, but no one ever fucking listens. So it becomes a nightmare.
Absolutely.
And I remember the Star Wars one. I was like I had a piece of paper.
You did. Yeah.
I had a list of just points that we needed to get through, and like we'd discuss each point and then move on. But everyone just started rambling. I was like, right, okay, he's jumped from A to Z, and I need to fucking stitch it back up together. It was a nightmare. So I imagine this will also be a nightmare.
So Charlie, again, I'm asking you these questions particularly because Jack and I have already discussed this on this show. So just so we're not repeating ourselves. From a moment-to-moment gameplay perspective, what has happened?
Oh no! Everything's gone to shit!
We've lost Charlie.
We've lost Charlie.
Oh.
The camera's gone, Charlie.
Me now, guys.
No, your camera's gone.
You need to,
Turn your camera back on.
Yeah.
Okay. Is on for some reason. It's hang on.
And we're getting there.
And on.
There we
There we go. Now, what's
already a nightmare?
also somehow? Oh no, it hasn't. I was going to say I thought Jack and I had swapped places, but it hasn't. It's corrected it.
I had moved up the top when Charlie wasn't here.
Sort of technology's fun in it. Thanks, lockdown and right. Charlie, moment-to-moment gameplay as a game. Other than without going too much into story yet, because I just want to talk about story independently, really. What were your impressions of Last of Us as a game piece? We're talking gameplay, moment to moment. What are your thoughts and impressions there?
Moment to moment, as far as how a game mechanically works and how it controlled and the vast improvement on the first game in that, I loved it. I'd put it up there as one of the best I've played in that respect. I felt that jumping in, it felt very familiar, the control scheme. Of course, they didn't fuck with it too much, but the really simple things they added that just completely gave you a completely new dynamic of playing, i.e. going prone. You have to go prone. That in itself, oh my god.
Not even just go prone, but be able to seamlessly switch from prone, crouching and whilst running, crouching or walking, and still having full access to all of your weapons and inventory is just that fantastic depth to gameplay. I agree. Jack, bless you.
It was almost like Metal Gear 4 and 5 in that respect.
Yeah, but to a whole new level, I think. Just a whole new benchmark for it.
Definitely.
Jack.
Hello.
This question goes to you, but it will be an open question for the room. I would like you to talk to me about your thoughts of the story of The Last of Us Part 2.
It was a bit good, wasn't it?
Well, now you see, I don't know if good is the right word.
It is the right word. Just because it didn't make you feel good doesn't mean it isn't good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, the end of Endgame didn't make you feel good. But it was fucking ridiculous. It was... The performances were outstanding. The writing was outstanding. The choices were unexpected. And I feel specifically because it didn't make you feel good and it made you, like... The last 2 hours as a whole were, why are we doing this? I don't want to do this.
Yep.
Don't do this. Don't be stupid, Ellie. What are you doing? And I feel that's why it's an absolute masterclass. Like, regardless of what fucking idiots and bigots want to talk about.
Yeah.
Like, if you actually boil it down, it is fantastic. It is inclusive without being like really patronizing to those who is included. That's coming from me, by the way. I'm not a voice to speak in that regard, but from an outside perspective, it doesn't seem like it's being patronizing to those within those communities that is included. And it's visceral, it's dirty, it's hard, it's difficult, and that is entirely clearly the point. And like, there's so many ways you can break it down. It's a story about consequences for your actions. It's a story about like, what would you do in the name of love, essentially. And then
absolutely. I think for me, what makes it still special for me, despite the fact, and the reason I said I don't know if good is the right word, is because it's not a good feeling story. It's not a story to make
but
you.
That doesn't.
Yeah,
as I said,
absolutely. It's not a happy story. Maybe that's what I should have said.
Yeah,
but
The
despite
understatement of the century.
but I think what makes that so special is the first game kind of is a game that has a uplifting story, despite all the negative things that's going on and in that world. The story of that first game is about Joel having, coming back from losing his daughter, blocking everyone out, and then building this relationship with Ellie and sort of having a father-daughter relationship with someone new, getting back what he wanted. And even though, again, there's still questionable things that happen in that game and certain things you go, ooh, Joel, is that good? I don't know, which we'll get to in a bit, I'm sure, because it's pivotal into this one. At the end of it, though, you still can't help but feel a little bit uplifted that Joel and Ellie kind of do have this thing building, and you see that he cares for her and she cares for him. Whereas this game just doesn't do that in the same way. And that's not a bad thing. Like, the story of the game is supposed to be more negative, but somehow it still feels though it's part of that initial and original story. It doesn't, to me, I don't think it really feels like a sequel. It does feel like that part 2, and it is just carrying on. I think to do that successfully in itself is such a testament and a really good job by the team.
Yeah. So where we disagree, I can't remember if we've talked about this before, is I wouldn't agree that The Last of Us is a particularly uplifting story. The first one, I agree with what you're saying. Like, the character relationship is uplifting, But as a whole, the story is, because you can see that coming apart again by the time at the end.
It's very true. Yep.
But as definitely in terms of character relationships, but
I think it's in the
have
sense
that very small amounts in part 2. So that part I agree with.
Absolutely. I just think that for the most part, when you're going through the first one, despite the kind of the strange ending and you're kind of left hanging on a tether with the ending and questioning decisions, it's building towards this kind of uplifting atmosphere. So I think by the time you get to the last gameplay sequences in the first one, so just before you make it to the hospital, and you're traveling with Ellie, and they're just talking like father and daughter, and he's openly talking to her about Sarah and how he's going to teach her guitar, and they're walking around the hospital campuses and finding things and chatting about, oh yeah, no, I used to do this, and these are the things. They're just having, and it's like, we're getting it. That bit's uplifting. Like, that build to that section is uplifting. So that's kind of what I mean, I think. I mean, I didn't phrase it well in the first place, but...
No, I agree that the character relationships definitely are. And as I say, like, you get small amounts of that with Ellie and Dina, and then Abby and Lev.
I would say you get amounts of it with Joel and Ellie in this game as well.
Yeah, of course, but that's not modern time story. That's flashbacks, obviously.
Absolutely.
But you do definitely get that. 10 times what they had in the first game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because clearly their relationship has been settled. It's been built as opposed to over time, as opposed to just starting to ramp up. And I would agree with the fact that I think the premise of the story in the first one is definitely more uplifting, but it's just in a completely drab, dark, miserable world.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. The whole,
obviously.
the atmosphere of the games are.
Excluding the part with David, that's not particularly uplifting.
No, not really.
Not at all.
But yeah, no, this one is definitely a lot more sour, and I think that's the point. Like, even though he's publicly changed his mind on the way he would word it now, he did say that if the first game was about love, this one's about hate.
Yeah.
He's changed his mind now to.
I don't know if he's changed his mind so much as that he's no longer having to comply to pre-release marketing, so he's able to just talk a bit more openly.
Okay, yeah, but he now says he has outright said that it's not about hate; it is also about love.
Yeah,
just the other side of it.
absolutely,
Like,
the darker side
the
of it.
the ridiculous things you'd go to.
Charlie, what are your thoughts on this particular part of the topic?
What about how how the game makes you feel?
Just what your thoughts are on the story as a whole.
Oh, as a whole, you know, I completely changed my mind on whether I like the story or not. Probably 3 or 4 times.
Right. Okay.
Playing. And you know, when Joel was killed in the first couple of hours.
Oh, we're into it.
I don't. We're into it.
It's just that was the first time we'd actually mentioned that. It's fine.
Yeah. When that happened, I felt really fucking really numb, kind of like, oh, right, okay. Like, I suspected he was going to get killed off, but not in that way and not so quickly. You know, like, you know, I thought I'd get my other foot in the door. Before something like that happened. And going through and seeing the relationship with Dina grow, and that was really nice. And having those when you're wandering around, or going through the different gates and exploring and finding the Uncharted Easter egg in the bank and that kind of thing. I started to really, really enjoy the game. I did so up until I realised I was playing as Abby, and I thought, okay, this will be a couple of hours or something. And I hit the touchpad and realised she had her own skill set. Thought, oh, fuck's sake!
See, Jack, this is where
has more subsections of upgrades than Ellie does.
Yeah.
And it just made me think, I'm going to be playing this for like, what, 10 hours? At least? And I was like, right, okay.
It was 8 hours for me.
Was it 8? Yeah, something like that? Yeah, that must have been something like that for me. Maybe a bit more. But I was really not up for it. Really not. I half wanted to put it down. And I was thinking, fuck, mate, were they right? Were all of these people slagging it off on Twitter? Were they call it? I've been...
No.
No,
because they were saying it without playing it, yeah.
Exactly. And then after a couple of hours, I was like, oh, man, I actually really like this girl. Like, I'm really enjoying it. And then again, when last couple of hours, when Ellie goes back out on her revenge quest again, I was like, for fuck's sake, you've done it again. I don't want to play it again now. It's like something you said to me when we were voice noting after you completed it.
Yeah.
I think because I had a bit more time on my hands, I think I completed it before you did.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I was back at work.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and you said to me, we don't have the vocabulary to describe how we feel about it. And that's why I'm now stumbling over my words and sort of freezing up, because it's such a incredibly prerogative and controversial game where it comes to the traditional way of telling a story in a game. It ripped the rule book out and shat on it. It's... I don't know. I've never experienced anything like it, and I'll be very surprised if I ever experience anything like that again.
Yeah, the thing I liked about they're both on the same mission, as it were. They're just at different points. Abby's in the aftermath of it.
Yeah, she's
And
achieved her
obviously
mission.
she's accomplished it and is now dealing with the fucking aftermath of it didn't do what I wanted it to do at all. And Ellie's obviously just getting started on the exact same thing. It's just the cycle of violence, and all that nonsense, which is why all the people saying it glorifies violence clearly haven't even booted it up.
Absolutely. See,
but
go on.
I was just going to say, on the subject of playing as Abby, I was dancing around something last week, and that was obviously that we were playing as Abby, and I didn't want to spoil that, and I hated it for a while. Because literally I wanted to do nothing but put a shotgun in her mouth.
So, go on.
It took me a while, but then I started liking it. It is also... There's a huge chunk of that... Well, I'll let Kristian speak before we get into this, but there's a huge chunk of that Abby section that I really don't think should exist.
So for me, I found it really interesting in the build to the game because, first of all, it's no secret how much I adore the first one. It's
same.
It's stunning game. I love the characters so much. I care for their relationship, particularly Joel and Ellie, but also some of the expanded characters you still somewhat care for. And I think the first game does a fantastic job of making you care for those sort of characters that come in between to an extent as well. So obviously this going into the sequel and kind of this idea that, and we knew it was going to be a few years on and that Ellie was on a path of revenge of some form and you were playing as Ellie. There were a lot of rumors knocking around early days that Joel would be dead. And I kind of had a feeling that was going to be the case from the way in the marketing that they were always talking about. Ellie's motivation was she suffered a traumatic event and now she is going on this run.
They made it incredibly obvious from the get-go.
Yeah, I had a very strong feeling that the only thing that's going to motivate that character to that kind of action is going to be Joel being taken from her. There was, some ideas of, it will be that she finds out that Joel's thing was a lie or something like that. It'll be something to do with the... It's like, but no, that wouldn't motivate that from her. The only thing that's going to motivate that from her would be Joel being taken from her. So I kind of knew that was coming. What I didn't see coming, though, not so much that he was killed so brutally, and I think that's... We can talk about that in a bit, and I think that's good. It is part of building that motivation for Ellie. But what I didn't see coming was the circumstances in and around Ellie and Joel's relationship, which makes how Joel was taking her so much more heartbreaking. And I think for me, that was one of the standout elements of that. So you see... You don't really get it too early on, but you get a couple of glimpses that her and Joel aren't quite right. There's a bit in the very early dialogue between her and Jesse when you're walking around Jackson at the very beginning of the game where he says something along the lines of, "What's going on with you two?" And she's like, "Oh, no, we're fine," and she's talking to
Maria,
Yeah, and it's like, you're like, there's something going on here. And as you go through that game and you play through those fantastic flashback sequences and you get elements of what we loved of those two characters from the first one, of them exploring the museum, that fucking exploring the museum bit, and like
it's one of my favorite parts of the game.
Me too.
I think any of those flashback sequences between her and Joel are just stunning, and just this whole thing of seeing that she doesn't trust him, that she knows we knew anyway she didn't trust him. She knew he lied about that, but then her finding out about it and confronting him and him admitting it, and that moment where she goes, I'll go back to Jackson with you, but we're done. Like, I saw some other people say this, but at that point, I genuinely was like, fucking hell, the last thing, the last interactions they had were negative. And then when you get to that scene from the barn, that was the E3 scene, it doesn't come in until about 15 hours into the fucking game, that E3 scene.
It's pretty much at the end.
And you get...
the very end,
the end of that scene that we hadn't seen before, where she steps in and she argues with Joel and says, I don't need protecting, whatever it was she says, and he just kind of backs out and says sorry. I suddenly clicked at that point. I think with so many other people did, it clicked at that point. It's like, fucking hell, they've not spoken to each other properly in years. And the last thing she said to him before him being taken away from her was this. They've had... And I found that so heartbreaking. And then they took it one step fucking further by doing that
And the real last thing that
final
she said to
flashback
him,
scene, and that real last thing said that she's gonna try to forgive him, and they're gonna try and make it work. And like,
was like,
It's so much fucking worse, man. It's
Yeah,
so
genuinely
much
in
more painful.
tears, like
I'll never be
genuinely
able to
sobbed.
forgive you for that. I'd never be able to forgive you for that, but I'd like to try. And then Joel starts crying, and I'm just like,
Fuck, I'm done.
I'm out.
Oh.
I'm out.
And I think that there's a whole point about, in a way, you're supposed to question Ellie's actions. You know, is she right to be doing these things? Questioning her decisions. And I felt like for so much of the game, I felt like I understood and empathized with all of the decisions and agreed. And for a big part of that game, I was like, yeah, we're going to fucking get this Abby bitch. We're going to fucking kill her. Because it was, and if anything, just because of the way it was done, right? You know, it was a brutal killing. And she made Ellie watch it. And it was like, yeah, we're going to fucking get her. We're going to make her pay. And I
In
didn't...
Abby's defense, she didn't know that was Ellie.
I know. But like...
Even so, fuck that bitch.
Yeah, I was so against that character. And early on, when you had played, because you play as Abby early, before it happens as well, when that first piped up, I was like, okay, we're going to get this character a lot, aren't we? And I remember, Jack, when we were doing that podcast, the spoiler-free one, and I hadn't finished it, and you were further ahead, and you said there was a bit that had made you go, ugh. I had twigged exactly what it was. And I twigged at that point, and I was going to say, I was like, they're going to make you play as Abby. It's a long period of time, aren't they? It's going to happen. And when I got to it, I was like, yep, fucking knew this was coming. And although like part of me just wanted to go, fuck this character, I knew there would be a reason why I was having to play as her now. So I think I managed to just switch off from that a little bit. Because I was like, Naughty Dog wouldn't do this unless, you know, Neil Druckmann wouldn't have done this unless there was a very poignant reason that I was playing as this character.
Oh, I knew full well, like, it was meant to piss me off at first. Like, that's the whole point. I think it's meant to piss you off, and then over the course, you're meant to grow an attachment to this character and understand who she is and where she came from. Like the things I do still have a problem with Abby is kind of the amount of flashbacks of what I would deem irrelevant information, and almost the entirety of day 2.
I'm having a mic problem.
I mean, yeah, you keep spinning it.
You keep talking. I need to mute my mic and fix this.
Just to refresh my memory, briefly, day 2 as Abby. What's the
Day 2 is the one where you're going down so you spend, it's the Sky Bridge one. You go across the Sky Bridge.
Oh, yeah,
and then you spend 8 weeks working your way down the fucking block of flats, and then you spend another 8 weeks playing My Princess is in another medical box in the fucking hospital, and then you've got to fight that gigantic swollen bollock of hell.
Yeah.
And like, I don't think it was a well-designed, well-paced, or anything.
That section of the game is why I didn't give it a 10 in my review. It's that section. That's the reason why I felt it brought away from so much. And the big bit, I was kind of already getting frustrated with it, but something in the back of my head was telling me, you're only getting frustrated because you're finding it difficult. And then when you got to the point where you're in that hospital and that fucking Resident Evil boss popped up.
Yeah. I thought, why am I fighting Nemesis?
Yeah.
Like,
I was just like, oh, this was a dumb idea.
I hated it, and it just goes against everything that's The Last of Us. It goes against everything Last of Us. It's a game about resource management, and there's no escaping this absolute bullet sponge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it also, like, canon wise, it doesn't. Why was there so much? Because there's loads of ammo lying around at the bottom. Why is there ammo lying around the bottom of this hospital? It doesn't make any fucking sense.
I don't think any of that makes sense. I often find boxes of bullets in a child's bedside drawer.
Yeah, that's very true. Mind you, America is a weird place, Jack.
Yeah.
They love their guns. See, the hospital thing was interesting for me because I loved exploring that hospital early on. And I was like, this is so cool. Walking around ground zero of this pandemic in a hospital fucking awesome. Like you could see and I knew there was something going to be something crazy around the corner. It was like, yeah, like this shit's been here for fucking years. How evolved is this going to be?
They told us there was a new terrifying enemy as well. They told us that.
But I disagree with that as a choice of enemy. Like giving you like just a big fucking cluster testicle boss was just like, this doesn't fit for me.
Only dumb. And I don't think like even the other bigger ones, the bloaters and the shamblers, make sense for this world. Just because like, right, okay, so they've been infected for a long time and that's made their body size grow.
Yeah.
Because and the ability to throw spore grenades because like, it doesn't make any sense. Like I really liked everything up to the runners to the clickers because it makes sense. It's dependent on how covered they are, and because obviously it covers their entire face, they develop the ability to click. Or in between the two, they're a lot more timid and they're stalkers, and they only because they're not great at seeing, so they dive in when you're not looking. But when it gets up to bloaters and shamblers, it's like it doesn't bother me because my brain just goes, "It's a game."
It's a game, yeah.
So then there needs to be that because there would have been sections of it. I think clickers are really easy.
Clickers are much easier in this game than the first one. Because
I think they're about the same.
No, because the first one they're a little bit harder because you can only attack them from behind and you have to have a shiv. On this game,
that's because Ellie has a knife.
Because you're Ellie, she has a knife. You can attack them, and you can attack them from the front. And like
you could attack clickers from the front in the first one as well.
I don't remember that. Like, there may be. I don't.
Stealth kill them from the front, but you could attack them.
Oh right, yeah. Sorry, but you could sneak up and you could stealth kill from the front on this one. So they were just a little bit easier, not much easier, and when you played as Abby, they were a bit harder again because she didn't have a knife all the time. You had to go back to crafting shivs.
No, but even so, I felt like they're easy because you don't have to kill them, and they're easy to avoid.
There is that, yeah.
As enemies, they are easy. I find them easier than runners. Just because runners can see you.
But when going back,
we had strong differences between what we found difficult. Like you said, you found the Seraphites. Seraphites, thank you. Quite difficult, but I found them really easy.
I found humans quite difficult in general, but yeah, the Seraphites
I found them a lot harder to sneak by. Yeah.
So I just wanted to say, just back on the story beats. So like, in terms of those sort of motivations, and I was saying that I was with Ellie on those motivations for a very long time, and I kind of understood the need for things. And even at the point when we were getting to the hospital for the first time with Nora and what the actions there, I was still, although I was like, oh, this is a bit much. At the same time, I was like, I get it though. Like I get it. She needs to do this. I get it. It was when it goes to that second time, and that
Santa Barbara.
Yeah, and you're going after a second time, which you've kind of both said, like, why are we doing this? I think I'm a bit of an anomaly here because at first I was still like, no, I get it. Like we need to finish. This needs to be finished in one way or another. Like this is, it needs to wrap up. Then, but as I started going through that section more and more and more, and started like Eddie's going through then, she's getting badly injured and everything else and whatnot. And then when you saw Abby in the state she was in, and then when she, in that last moment, and they're at the boats, and Abby is now so skinny and dying, and Lev is just unconscious, and Ellie is just like, no, I'm not going to let you go, and she goes and takes that knife to Lev. That was the first time where I then went, all right, okay, Ellie, you need to stop.
No, it was definitely at the farmhouse where I was just like, no. As soon as Tommy showed up, I was like, don't do it. Don't do it, because you've got a good life and nothing's going to change it. You know that by the fact of you had that interaction where Abby realized it wasn't going to change anything.
Yeah.
Where Ellie was there at the theater where she took the the higher road, shall we say, and let go.
Yeah, no, I think for me it was a case of I understood entirely why Ellie wouldn't leave it there. Is more what I mean. Like at that point, I understood that despite the should she, I understand why she would, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Well, I mean, yeah, I get it, and I enjoyed it from a story's perspective. But I just think like that was insane, and that's where I was going. Like, don't. As soon as Tommy started pointing it out, and you could see in her face, I was like, don't listen to this fuckhead.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised actually. Tommy took that attitude towards Ellie. He was like, "You've got to do this. Like you said, we were going to do it. I can't." Be angry with her when she says she's not going to, and like, I was a bit like, "Oh, okay." Like,
I kind of understood that because since he's done in the time it's taken him to do that flip, he's like from what he was earlier, because he was obviously a bit more conservative about the idea earlier on. He has literally lost everything: the ability to use his leg, his eye, and his wife. And his brother.
He's got
his brother. He's lost everything.
He's got a stronger motivation in a way. Like all he wants is to get his revenge. Everything's been taken from him. So I get that.
And of course I completely understood that, and also in the fact of when he was trying to tell Ellie she doesn't have to go and all that lot. He could do it and did do it, but he can't anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, okay. I get where you're coming from. I was just in the moment, it surprised me. In the moment, I was just like, oh, okay. It just seemed really harsh. Obviously, in hindsight, with those thoughts, it is understandable. It just seems so strange. And then when she gets up in the morning and she's packing her bag up and everything, I'm like, oh.
I was like, don't do it.
Don't get me wrong. The second Tommy turned up, we fucking knew she was going. We knew.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Also, because it would have been a trash ending.
Absolutely.
Just, I have a baby called JJ, which I assume is Joel and Jesse.
Jesse, yeah.
I was thinking Jesse Jr., but that makes sense. Joel and Jesse, yeah.
Or Jesse Joel, or Joel, whatever. But on the complete flip to what I said about almost the entirety of Abby Day 2 being pish and just going on for too long, Abby Day 3 was spectacular.
It was.
Going to the Seraphite Island.
Yep.
That whole section, the ending where it's all burning down, then going back to the aquarium where you find Owen and Mel dead.
I thought
Alice.
The level of storytelling between how those two different perspectives lined up, I thought was stunning. Because although you, like, when you're playing as Abby, you knew where it was going to go, I felt as though I was never entirely sure on how and when it was going to get to it exactly. Well, obviously you knew when because of days, but it was like how these things were going to unfold for her, and at what point, how that then lines up with where we left Ellie. Because obviously you leave Ellie with Abby coming to the theatre, and saying like, I let you live. You wasted it.
And you wasted it.
Yeah. And then you're straight into Abby from a few days ago, and just seeing the two perspectives, I thought that was brilliantly written. And the bit that I think of the most is when you go to the aquarium as Ellie for the first time, and it's stormy, and you get in there, and as soon as you get through the door, that the dog comes at you, and you don't know the dog for another dog at this point, and it's you kill the dog in a quick time event. It's just like, right, fucking okay, and you go through, and then there's like this operating table and blood and bits everywhere, and Ellie says like, what the fuck's going on here? And like at that time you're playing it going, what the fuck is going on here? This is weird. And like in that moment none of that gets answered, And it's not until later those things start to get answered, and the way it unfolds and you see that. And then when you do eventually go back to that aquarium as Abby, you follow the same route that Ellie did, and you see Alice. And then it, like, for me, that's when it all just triggered in. And I was like, oh, fucking hell, right, okay. And it all just kind of, I thought it was so well done. I thought that bit was brilliantly written.
Yeah. So obviously I knew when the whole thing was get back to the aquarium.
When the whole thing is get back to the aquarium and there's a storm starting, that was like, right, okay, well.
So no, when they left for the island to go and chase Lev, that's when I clocked, like, when they get back. They're dead.
Yeah.
That's when I clocked that. But that was a big issue of mine for day 2 for Abby, in the fact that 90% of it could have been skipped, and you still could have told the exact same story.
So I think I think the trap they've fallen into there is they wanted to give you the time to get to know and love that character and those characters and care for those characters, but because they didn't have important story to tell in that space, it becomes fillery.
Yeah, and I appreciate that you were going there to get medical supplies for Yara so they could do that operation, and that's how it is kind of relevant. But the way that they didn't need to make the descending the block of flats so long, it took ages.
Absolutely, yeah. But as I said, I think that's because they wanted that time for that relationship between her and Lev to develop, and it's a trap, and they fell into the trap of the content of the gameplay is filler, so that they can have the points in that you need, and that's a problem a lot of developers fall into with games, and Naughty Dog has fallen into that trap many times before as well. Like, I agree it was a problem, but I can see from a production point of view why it's still in there.
Oh yeah, I can see that. It's just it wasn't overly interesting to play.
Agreed.
Like, the Skybridge bit was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that you could have just, like, they've fallen into the trap of everything needs to go wrong, and it gets just after a while. Just can something on their journey go right? Because it clearly goes right all the fucking time. That's why this bridge exists. Why is it just now this particular instance, after 98 other things has gone wrong, that you couldn't just walk across?
Yeah.
Take the lift.
Yeah.
Like, you could have done that. But yeah, it's annoying. One thing I did find quite cool, going back and playing it for a second time, when you go to the hospital as Ellie, and they're talking about, oh, she's still here. Like, they're not talking about you, they're talking about Abby. Yeah, and obviously you have no idea about that at the time. You assume they're just talking about you, and they know you're there.
Yeah. The bit where you're in the vent and someone's like, oh, well, if you'd been... Nora says if you'd been doing your job properly, Abby would still be in a cell. It's like, oh, why is Abby in a cell?
Yeah.
Been here.
Doesn't she just say she would still be in a cell? I don't know.
I think so. Maybe they do just... Maybe. I thought they said her name. But, okay.
Again, fantastic writing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Phenomenal. And the stuff that we've seen in trailers has led to that, and in the bit of gameplay we all got to watch, which is literally Ellie's part in the hospital.
Yeah.
And things starting to tie up, and how he did a really good... If the leaks hadn't happened, and I didn't actually get any spoilers. I don't know if you guys did.
Oh, I did.
No, I managed to avoid all the spoilers.
Yeah, same. I managed to avoid everything. And without that, if this wasn't happened, I really feel like even the marketing they did up to this was a really good way of helping to start build that story and to give us things when we saw them happening and happening slightly differently to how we saw them in the trailers sometimes, that kind of thing. Even that, like the storytelling didn't just happen in the game. It started happening months ago in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. One thing I hate about trailers is when they purposefully change shots. I hate that. Just use different shots. Just be better at making trailers. That's all that is. Be better at making trailers, and you won't need to change shots. Like the whole, I was going to let you do this by yourself, being Joel in the trailers. There was no need for that.
Well, they changed some of the flashback scenes when you're playing as Joel and Ellie. they used shots from that in the trailer, but changed the character model so it was older Joel and Ellie when it would have been younger Joel and Ellie, like stuff like that. It's just like use different shots.
Just don't need it.
They were trying to create a false sense of security that Joel was in this game.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
it was
essentially.
too obvious. It was too obvious that he was going to die anyway. But
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was like. And the one thing I will say I didn't like about the marketing and all the stuff we saw going forward is because the two major things we saw were so late in the game, they lost so much impact.
Absolutely.
The scene where you first meet the Seraphites properly, and Abby is being hanged.
Hung.
Where you first meet Lev and Yara, essentially. She has her arm smashed in.
Yep.
That scene we saw years ago, so it kind
it's
of
not
when
impactful
it came on
in that moment in the
it's
game.
I wasn't like, what's going to happen? This is intense. I was like, oh, it's this bit.
Yeah.
You think about if for people that because there will be some people that will play this game that haven't seen that.
Absolutely.
And that moment is going to be so much more impactful for them because it is such a brutal fucking hell type thing. So
absolutely, and even the party scene. And I know we didn't see the entire party scene, and the bit that was important wasn't shown. But at the same time, it's like that. It was still a good moment, and it would have been nice because they've been talking about it and leading to it throughout the actual game, and it was just odd. I felt it would have worked better if you had what we saw from the party and E3s and stuff earlier in the game when they were talking about it.
Yeah,
and then it extended it.
Mm-hmm.
Later on to the Joel part of the equation. I felt that would have worked a bit better personally. That's all my only problems with like the marketing and E3 stuff. I think they could have done way better with it.
It's also kind of partly why, and I know you guys have spoken about this before, and I agree with it. They announce games too early.
Mm-hmm.
We're waiting for years and years. They feel like they've got to show us something, so the pressure's on. They want to show us a big, impactful scene, a big cut scene, get us. Oh, what's going on here? And it's a sequel to a game like Last of Us. You don't necessarily need to worry about it as much because we're already hyped. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't. It's not as big a deal as it would be with a new IP, for example, or even a sequel to a less successful game. You know, you need to do a bit more. But if they weren't announcing these so early, they wouldn't need to show us as much.
Mm-hmm.
The marketing wouldn't need to remind us every fucking 2 years that it's coming out.
Well, here's the thing: if you want to do it early, my general opinion is don't remind.
Mm-hmm.
Just do your teaser like they did for this game with it was just the clearly apocalyptic
the teaser trailer for this game is fantastic.
Suburb Street, and then there was the spray paint of the fireflies. Which
and then you had Eddie playing the guitar and singing the song and whatnot.
Yeah,
that was a different trailer, wasn't it?
No, same trailer.
Oh, was it? Okay, well that's fine. Yeah, that wasn't a problem at all.
Yeah, because I thought that was a great trailer. It showed you enough. It showed you right. It's Ellie. She's older. She's pissed off. Joel's there. This is going to be good. We're in. That's all I needed. I didn't need to see much more promo on that.
That was the trailer that gave everyone the inkling that he wasn't there.
That is the trailer that did that, to be fair.
So clearly, they weren't doing that well on hiding their secrets. Because everyone figured it out 4 years ago within the first 3 minutes.
True.
But I agree, it was a really good trailer. I did really enjoy that trailer. And I felt they should have shut up. I mean, put that trailer out and then shut up until about 6 months ago.
Yep.
Like
that's what they should
that
do.
probably
Or just shut up until about 6 months ago.
That may have made people less inclined to try and hack them. It wouldn't have been at the forefront of everyone's mind.
I don't think they got hacked.
I don't think they got hacked. I think it was someone from in.
I thought it was true that it was spread that an employee didn't leak it. Someone hacked it.
I think they were going to say that regardless.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was leaked by a disgruntled employee.
Yeah.
Because they got enough of them because people don't know what crunch is and just don't understand how it's not possible to remove it. It's bad, but it's inevitable.
Maybe
But
it's
anyway.
a line of work for people if they don't want to do it, eh? But I don't know.
Those are my thoughts on the problem. I agree, it's bad and it sucks, but it's hand in hand with the line of work.
I would also argue that every single job has its things, which is bad and sucks.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe
mean,
not
if
working, maybe not
Actually,
doing like 75-hour weeks or whatever. And I agree that does suck.
but your point, I get your point, but the
No, I
notion,
agree,
and it's
every
not you.
job
I
has
know
its
you're
thing.
not saying this, but there is this strange notion on the internet that this only happens in video games, and there are plenty of jobs where people work well over what they should be working. You made the point about fucking surgeons, you know,
Yeah.
and like,
What? Like,
It is.
it's not unheard of to have a 36-hour solid surgery.
yeah,
Well, that that surgeon, fucking man, that surgeon is on their feet for 36 hours.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. Also in deep concentration for
Yeah.
36 hours. I would be dead if I had to
You
do
would
that.
need
Lawyers.
surgery yourself.
You have lawyers, you have the rest of the medical profession, and you have the police force. You have there are people doing way more than you. Like you're making video games. This is great. We appreciate you. We love you. And particularly at Naughty Dog, you're making fantastic games. You're doing a very good job. But if you don't like it, leave.
Talking of people at Naughty Dog making fantastic games, I would like to talk about the sheer level of, in my opinion, perfection in just the execution of the technical parts of this game. So I'm talking graphics, animation, combat systems. Fucking hell. So good. And
I did have some anti-aliasing going on, which was annoying. at
absolutely,
times.
that's a PS4 problem, as opposed
Oh
to...
yeah, absolutely. I'm sure it won't when you port this game to
That's
when you put this
absolutely a
game
PS4
on
problem.
a PS5. It's not going to be there.
I think like some of the stuff I've seen going around Twitter of like gameplay sections, and like I didn't notice really how fucking insane the game, like the combat systems were, until I'm watching some stuff back later, and it's like fucking hell. Have you seen? I didn't know you could do jump attacks.
Yeah, no, I saw a clip of that tweet and I was like, what?
And they
Like, you
look,
could
and
jump
they're,
from above.
and they're mad jump attacks as well, and the way like they react to them, and just the fluidity of them, of like getting up out of these attacks and moving into the next one, and you know, being flung over by something and immediately being able to like roll over and lob something at someone else to get back up, and the dodge system worked really well. I think the dodge system worked brilliantly. It was hard, so it took me a while to get my head around it, but once I got it, I was like, right, okay.
Yeah, I agree. I really liked the attention to detail in the kind of like last stand from Call of Duty type moment where you get hit and you fall over and you just whip out your handgun while you're lying on your back. That's really cool. The arrows. Yeah. Pulling out the arrows and everything, and that actually, like, if you leave it in there and don't get to a point where you can rip it out, it starts affecting gameplay. Yep. And it starts affecting your health, like, long term. And it's great.
Like just the animations of the interactions between all the enemies and stuff like that, they're so perfect. It's just...
I point out the insane attention to detail as well on bullet caliber, just... entry wounds, exit wounds. Yeah. Like, there's a point, you know, the kind of, it's not downtown Seattle, the proper open area, but it's a bit more, there's a workbench and a petrol station. There's that shop where you can kind of see the skylight. Yeah. That general area. There's a bit where someone's got a rifle and is in the first story window. Right. Opposite one of the other shops, and I used my rifle to shoot him in the face. Went upstairs to just go and loot that area and what happened. This was yesterday, so this was playthrough 2. So I'm still finding new things. But he was kind of like just on the floor, as you would be after being shot in the face with a rifle. But you can see, like, it was a good shot, may I point out. It was like here. Like, entry wound, obviously, pretty messy. Then you see the back of his head and it's gone. is just chunks and brain matter, and you're like, I'm so sorry.
I really liked as well the sort of kind of mini bosses they had. I know there's the element of so you wouldn't get a bigger human that is that suddenly invulnerable. But I really liked those gameplay sections. So there was one where there's a infected when you get the bow and arrow as Ellie, which is kind of more like a mini boss fight. There's the big woman who's the big Sarah fight, where there's a big bloke that attacks you at one point in the fire, where you like cleave half of his face open with like the hook thing.
That was the one that was a Zabby. Yeah, I thought that was the one that really took the piss, because the other ones you could take down quite easily, the big guys, and it was like, okay, fair. Like you do one kind of shot to stagger them, and then a headshot will kill them.
Yeah.
This guy, you can fucking plaster in the head. You stab him in the head. You give him a fucking axe to the nuts, or whatever you're doing, and then it's because obviously he's a boss fight and has to die in a particular way in a particular cutscene, and it was kind of just.
But I felt like the gameplay of those moments was so good and so satisfying. I just really enjoyed it, and they were all foreshadowing then when you have that boss fight at the end with Abby. In terms of the gameplay style,
absolutely. Gameplay led to the moment.
Yeah,
I felt it would have been solved for me with like a different character model, like because he was just in a tank top or a jacket or whatever. He was wearing something that would make like, okay, fine, he's going to be able to take more because you've got to do more to get to it. But the fact that he was just like,
the bit when his jaw is just like hanging off and he's still going at you, it's like fucking hell.
Hail would take him out.
Yeah.
Like, and you're just like there with a knife and an axe and a fucking gun, and not that I don't think you do actually shoot him.
God, it was brutal. There was some brutal stuff in that game.
Did you kill him in the end? You put an arrow through his neck, didn't you?
Yeah, something like that.
Like you had a broken arrow. Oh, yes. Lev shot him with an arrow and you break it out of him. I know that much. And I think you stab him in the neck. I think one of my favourite moments, because I just wasn't expecting, when you upgrade the Ellie's stealth kill, when you make it 50% faster.
Oh, I haven't done that.
I've not done that yet. That's my next thing to do.
So, in a cool, obviously it changes the animation. It doesn't just make it quicker. So at the moment for you guys, it's a really slow drag through your throat. It's when you upgrade it, it's literally just a quick slash. You spin them around and then jab them in the chest.
Fucking hell!
And then just scroll down.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then with infected, you just kind of Not that I understand. Like, it's strange because I don't understand why she didn't just do that to begin with infected, as opposed to slicing their throats. I was like, but they're undead. Like. They are powered by the mushroom. Like.
There are a lot of people in this world.
Mario.
Yeah.
This isn't when Mario went rogue.
That's going to be the next. That's going to be Super Mario Odyssey 2. It's going
to be a Last of Us tie-in.
I want to talk about that museum section a little bit because we kind of have alluded to how good that bit was.
Which one?
The flashback as when the museum when you
museum, yeah.
Love this part.
So good.
Oh, it was so good. I love everything about it. I love the way it started. I love with him pushing you in the water, and it's like, oh, I can swim now and stuff, and like then her pushing him back and stuff. Water? What?
The who?
You guys find the pallet in the water that you can point out to Joel?
No.
Oh no! Yeah. She pushes you in.
I've done that bit twice now.
Yeah. So he pushes you in, and you're swimming around, and there's a pallet with like a triangle, like and you press it, and she's like, "Oh, hey Joel, want to give me a lift?" It's like, "Oh, let's go over, kiddo," and like they both laugh.
I'm so glad about that because I said to you, didn't I, that it'd be funny if they did something like that somewhere, just a little reference to how you don't need the pallet anymore.
That's the thing. So easy to miss shit. It's so easy to miss those environmental things if
Take on Me is entirely missable.
Yep.
Completely missable.
Now,
it's one of my probably my favourite song that he did.
The question I have, and I asked this, and I think I know what the answer is going to be, but I don't know if it's a thing you have to do. So in that museum section, did you climb the dinosaur?
Yep.
Oh, no way.
Okay, so you don't have to do it. So literally, like, as soon as I saw the T-Rex, I was like, motherfucker, I'm climbing that.
Yeah, the one outside where she goes, holy shit, it is a dinosaur. Yeah, you can climb up its tail.
Yeah,
and
and
then
literally, as
jump
soon
on
as
it.
I saw it, I was like, motherfucker, I'm climbing that. And like, played through that whole sequence, and I thought to myself, I was like, is this a contextual thing that's missable, or is this like, you can't avoid
Absolutely
it?
missable. Yep.
But I loved it. It was a thing. Like, that's one of the things that Naughty Dog do so well, that they know that people are going to look at that and go, I want to climb up that. And they let you. And not only do they let you, they make it a piece. They make a thing out of it.
It's quite funny. So as soon as you go in the museum, on the right, there's a hat that you can
See,
find.
I haven't done that.
I have
so
not.
You find the hat, and then you can start putting it on all the dinosaurs. But yeah, there is a trophy if you put it on 2 dinosaurs and then put it on Joel.
Right.
So and he wears that hat for a while.
I haven't done that yet, but I will do. I will do.
I'll definitely do
Good.
that.
I'm assuming you all went around and literally clicked on every single dinosaur.
At least I think I did, yeah.
Well, yeah,
What I did,
everyone
obviously
that you
fucking not, because I couldn't climb the T-Rex.
Yeah, because yeah, I love the way that obviously Joel's talking about Jurassic Park and
Oh, it's so good. And again, it's just that relationship building. And then I loved when you get to the space section, because it's such a small mention. There's such a small moment in the first game, in one of those like contextual interactions in the first game. And it's one of those ones where you can go up to her and press triangle, where she says, I think I would have been an astronaut.
and it's at the university
Yeah.
because Joel then starts talking about how he wanted to be a singer,
Yeah.
which is another thing where you're just like,
Yep.
in this game.
And I just, when you go through that, when you went through that room and you saw all the space stuff, it just sort of clicked in, and like her reaction, I was like, oh yeah, fuck, she said she would have been an astronaut, and it's just so good. It's so
She's
cool.
already mentioned it. Like modern day Ellie, 19-year-old Ellie had already mentioned it by that point.
Oh really? I think I missed that.
Yeah. And there's like
when-
Facebooks in her room and everything in her house.
Well, yeah, that's because those are the comics you were collecting for her in the first game.
Right. Cool. Yeah, of course.
But when you leave the bank, because they're obviously talking about all the money that you find,
Yeah.
and then Dina starts talking about like if you were living in the world before it went to shit, what would you do with all that money? Dina's talking about how she would probably get a farmhouse, and then Ellie was just like, I'd probably get a space shuttle. So yeah, it had been briefly mentioned. The bank is also where Nate's ring is.
See, I don't think I went in the bank. I think the bank's missable.
The bank is entirely missable.
Yeah, I think I missed all of that, so I wouldn't have got that bit. That's cool.
Yeah,
That's
it's
very
literally as you enter the big open world area of downtown Seattle.
cool. Right.
Soundtown Seattle is what I
Soundtown
just gave you there.
Yep. I get you.
Downtown Seattle, that whole section. As you enter, the bank is there.
Right.
So it's literally, well, the other side for mirroring.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's right there. I did it last as well. Like I didn't notice this big fuck off building because it looks like it's collapsed. So
Right.
obviously you just looks like you don't go there.
So-
It's in that section where you can find the Dr. Uckman card as well.
Yeah, I think I missed a lot of bits around that, to be honest. But I don't know. I was finding my first playthrough of that game so weird and so tense that I wasn't thinking of it in the sense of I need to explore every section. I was thinking it in the sense of I need to kill Abby. That was my only intent when I was first playing that game.
Yeah.
And
I just went to everywhere that gave me a question mark, and obviously depending on where you go gives you different question marks. So I went somewhere and I found a plan for robbing a bank.
oh right,
Found like a note that was somebody's plan to rob a bank, or at least talking about what's still there. Like, I don't know if anyone's looted this bank, but there's going to be a lot in there. And then you go in and there's this mini subplot of how the people who are still in there tried to rob the bank on Outbreak Day. And all that nonsense. It's a pretty good section.
So
That was a fucking dumb idea.
my,
Hindsight.
you guys have both gone back and started second playthroughs. I have not done that yet. And it was because when I kind of first finished playing it, my initial thoughts were, I don't know if I want to play this game again anytime soon. I know it was always, I'll play it again at some point. But I found it so emotionally heavy. I really had to settle and think on this game a lot. And I found the review really hard to write and coming to terms with a lot of it. And I think I've changed my thoughts on a lot of what happened as well, or at least how I've read into a lot of the things what's happened as I've thought about it some more. Today, though, I've listened to the Spoilercast on Kind of Funny with Neil Druckmann, Ashley Johnson, and Troy Baker. And I don't know what it was, but something about just listening to their perspectives on the game has suddenly driven me to go back and start playing it a second time. So I'm going to jump on that maybe tonight, if not tomorrow, and get back in on it. How are you two finding so far your sort of second jump into it?
Obviously, everything is less heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, like, cutscene wise, I'm still watching the cutscenes just because I think they're so well done.
Absolutely.
And I enjoy them. But I'm also doing a collectible run, so I'm not really paying that much attention. I'm doing the gameplay modes, and I've gone into the accessibility stuff. That's clearly there for people who are differently abled. But I'm using them anyway. So I've got a sonar to tell me where shit is. I've got a skip puzzle moment to save time.
Oh, lovely.
So literally, as soon as you pick up a rope, if you pause it, there's a skip puzzle, and then you just teleport to to where you would be.
You love skipping puzzles, don't you?
Well, I mean, none of them are particularly puzzles. It's just a case of saving time. Like, because puzzles, I don't need to sit there and solve them while I'm literally just there to do upgrades and collectibles at this point. I'm just watching the cutscenes because they're good. Why wouldn't you? But other than that, I've also got it on very light, so it's a breeze.
Yeah. I think I'll do my second playthrough on very light.
I'm playing on moderate again.
You're a man.
Anyone help?
Absolutely.
If I find that I'm getting pissed off with it and think, hey, you know what? I've proven to myself I can do this bit because I've already done it. I'll probably switch. So far, it's not been too bad, but I'm still very early in the game.
Yeah, it's been a wonderful breeze. I can just walk into a room and go, hello, enemies. I'm also doing New Game Plus, so I'm at the very beginning and I have a silenced submachine gun.
How dog shit that goes if you don't hit him in the head.
Yeah, it's hello, pow, pow, pow. Craft your silencer for your pistol. No. It's good fun. It's good fun. I am enjoying it. Obviously, I'm not having the difficulty or the emotional weight to it. But as we've said, like this game, just gameplay wise, gameplay design is stellar. So it's still good fun. Good fun to play through it. I am using a guide for the collectibles because I'm not risking missing.
Well,
one
I feel like
thing.
not using a guide for the collectibles would be insanity. So
Yeah, I may as well be right in the guide.
Yeah.
Also, can I say fuck that job?
yeah, I know. Absolutely, fuck having
Right
that
in
job.
the dick. Like put a penis in another penis level of fuck that, because good lord, especially these sites that like I believe I could be wrong, but the site I use is called PowerPix, and I believe it's one dude.
Oh, jeez.
Lord have mercy. No. How long did his fucking first playthrough take? Looking for all that shit. One thing I will also say is in Very Light, resources are just like come at me. Because it got to a point of I had like 6 or 7 different things I needed to do supplements for. By the time I've gotten to the TV station, and obviously they're the more expensive ones that cost like 40, 50, 60 a piece. And by the time I'm at the TV station, I have 2 left.
See, that's the still. I'll still probably about 6 or 7.
Yeah, by the time I've gotten to the TV station as well, because that's I don't know where I am. I'm on day 2. Yeah, I just started day 2. So
Better than me.
all of Ellie's weapons are already upgraded. I've done that now. So it's just a case of I need to get. I think I need 40 more supplements, and then I'm done on that as well. And then I just need to worry about Abby, and then all of that's done.
Out of pure jealousy of you, I'm probably going to change the difficulty next time I boot the game up.
I mean, there's no point challenging yourself. As you say, you've already proven that you can.
I've
do
already
it.
done it.
I
Through
did not
them.
do it on moderate. I found it too frustrating.
There are going to be people
You
who do this on
moved
fucking
on
ground,
moderate.
and these people are insane people.
Does anyone have anything else in particular they want to talk about the game? The reason I ask is because personally, I feel like I've expressed a lot of my thoughts on it, being that it's devastating that you lose Joel because of how much you care about that character, but you get a lot of Joel in many ways. So
Maybe
you know,
not as much as you'd like, obviously,
Of
but
course.
you do. It's not like Joel's gone completely.
and you know, obviously it's special how you end up sort of somewhat still empathizing with the character who kills Joel. I also thought it was really cool that the way they kind of gave her a relationship similar to Joel and Ellie, what with her and Lev. And I think that kind of helps to deliver that message of what they're trying to create with it. And it's like the game left me very feeling quite numb is the words I said, because I enjoyed my experience of playing it. The gameplay itself is outstanding and I enjoyed consuming that story, but I think you said this, Jack, but what I got out of it wasn't enjoyment, but I enjoyed what I got out of it. So although I did love playing it, I absolutely loved playing it, it did leave me feeling very, oh my God, I feel so bad for these characters. I feel bad for Ellie that's now lost pretty much everything. This character I cared for so much. I've said for a long time that I think Ellie is my favorite, if not my favorite, one of my favorite video game characters. So the fact that she's gone through all of this, she's lost Joel, she's lost Dina, she's possibly lost Tommy, and she feels like her life has no meaning and everything. That left me feeling quite emotionally stunted. But I did enjoy every element of playing the game. I'm just wondering if anyone else had any other sort of takes on it or anything else they wanted to say about it in particular.
I had a question based off of the spoiler cast that Kristian and I have both watched.
Okay.
With the director and the cast.
Yeah.
How did you interpret the ending, the very ending when Ellie was walking off?
I interpreted it in a way where I would have liked her character, for the sake of because I care for her character, I would have liked for her to have a bit more of a resolve. It's left very open in the sense where it's like, well, what's Ellie going to do now? And
That was kind of the point.
which is the point. I feel sad about that for her, if that makes sense. I feel sad that she doesn't have a resolve yet. But I don't have an issue with it because it does make sense from a plot point of view. And I would like to think that what she's going to do now is make her own way back to Jackson and try and reconcile. I'd like to think that's what she's going to do.
That's what I took away from it as well. That
Same.
I like to believe that she's going back to Jackson to try and find Dina,
Yeah.
in the hopes that I can't forgive you for this, but I'd like to try can be extended back to her from Dina's perspective, type thing.
So it didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. In those last few moments when you're fighting Abby and you got at the boats and you eventually leave and you let Abby go and you say, just take him, just go. And in the point leading up to that, Abby, she's not fighting Ellie leading up to it. She's saying, there's boats this way. Ellie, there's boats this way. Come with us, kind of thing. I kind of had at first as I was playing through it, I thought that once Eddie let Abby go, Abby was going to get in a boat and then turn around and say, "We're going to the Fireflies." And Ellie would look up, think about it, and the whole theme of the game, there's been this whole big thing from the game that Ellie wanted to sacrifice herself for the cause. So if Ellie had found out that they were going back to the Fireflies, she might have seen that as, well, I've lost everything else. I absolutely now can go and get some meaning. I can go to the Fireflies and potentially they can do what they were going to do and my life will have meaning. I thought it was going to go that way. So I was surprised when it didn't, because I was adamant in my head that that's what it was going to do. And I think in a way I would have liked that for her character as well, just to give her some resolve. But as I say, I do fully respect and understand why it ended in the way it did.
Yeah, same. I mean, I was actually a little bit disappointed at first that it didn't happen. And after in with it and discussing that with Lizzie and with you over text, Kristian, and that, something I've been kind of funny. This comment got deleted, but I put on a video, like a comment on a YouTube video, but I get that it's not what we want, not necessarily what we wanted, but just because it's not what we wanted doesn't mean it's not right. At the end of the day, none of us are these genius storytellers making this game. So
How dare you?
yeah, we need to train. So
I started saying that before I heard the making this game part. So
that's not as bad as what someone responded to me saying, which I'll get to in a second. And I basically just put up like a relatively long for a YouTube comment, sort of 3 sentences, bringing that up and yeah, it's not what I would have liked or have chosen, but I think that's what's made this so good. The first response I got was, "You were the worst kind of air breather."
Yeah, people are idiots.
I was just like, okay. I didn't.
People are literally
Lizzie, like, I didn't upset me, but I was just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to say back to that. And eventually, I guess it was that the channel owner went and deleted both that comment and my one, I guess, to avoid any further fights in the comment section over that comment. But
to be fair,
people are losing their
The reason yours would have been deleted, Charlie, is because if someone has replied to your comment, you can't delete an individual reply. You have to delete the whole thread because YouTube's thick and dumb.
Okay, correct. That's why then.
It is. Subscribe. Yeah, so the whole controversy behind this game, I don't really want to get into it because it's insane. It's dumb. And I don't
Most
care
of it's
about
unfounded, and there's always going to be a game like this that is so beloved that kills off a main character. There's always going to be backlash, and then there's always going to be ignorant people that just want to bitch and moan for the sake of having a bitch and a moan. And
absolutely, but I am very, very, very pleased that all the petitions to boycott this game and the pleas to buy it secondhand so they don't make any money have failed miserably. Because this is currently Sony's most successful first-party game.
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck you. Like,
absolutely.
This is what you get. You've brought so much attention to this game that people who would probably never have even noticed it came out have gone, oh!
I want to see what the fuss is about. Yeah.
Yeah. The irony of stupidity, ladies and gentlemen, is that the more bad press you give something is the more press you are giving something.
Absolutely. I want to question a strange part that happened in the game, which I felt was strange because nothing ever came of it. So it felt like that was a weird thing to include. And I just wondered what your 2 thoughts were. So when you're at the playing in Santa Barbara as Ellie and she gets caught in the trap with the clicker and these 2 guys come along and she gets into a fight and, she then uses the clicker to capture the guy and whatnot and she gets bitten. And the guy makes a comment of like, I'll help you before that infection kicks in. I found that a bit weird because it was almost like it was just trying to pointlessly remind the audience that she was immune. Because it was like, what? I don't understand what that served in the sense that nothing. She doesn't ever go back. Nothing comes back to that at any point. There's no point where she's coming back to saying, "Look, I'm immune" or anything like that. You know, I found that
Someone
odd.
points out she's bitten. Someone does point out she's bitten one of the prisoners you rescued.
I missed that. Sorry, it broke up.
It does
And
get
when
brought
you
up
rescue
again.
the prisoners, someone's like, she's bit and points a gun at her.
Yeah, that happens, but then they just go, "She's at the place. Bye," and they just ignore her. Like nothing actually. There's nothing of consequence there.
No, but there wouldn't be anything of consequence to that, would there? Like that. I just took it as like, if you're immune, you will, like, no matter how careful you're being, like, you will always be a bit less careful about that. And
Absolutely.
you would get bitten in that scenario, and I do just feel it was a kind of like, it doesn't fucking matter, and it was.
I
And then
think
the only reason that guy brought it up was obviously because he doesn't know he's immune, and he was using it as a bargaining chip for him to stay alive.
yeah, it makes sense why he brought it up. I agree. Yeah, I
I'd
don't know.
say
It just felt odd because it felt odd that nothing ever came back to that, and it felt like
Well, yeah, they brought it up again, and the reason they didn't really do anything was because clearly she wasn't after them. She helped them,
yeah.
for one, and was holding an SMG to their face. So
But
I think that helped.
that
think
helped a bit. Yeah,
think-
just the don't fucking point that thing at me.
I think
And-
that's what kind of like potentially made me feel as though that there was going to be this kind of second chance to go to the Fireflies. When she was fighting Abby would suddenly click and go, "Oh, you are her. You are immune," type thing.
Yeah, but no, I never thought that, mainly because of, as nonsense as you may find it, I think it's reasonably plausible if you break it down. But they did make a point of saying the only person that the Fireflies had who could have done it was Abby's dad.
Absolutely, but Eddie didn't necessarily know that. And there's nothing to say.
She heard the tape we did.
She does hear the tape that says that. It's very
That's
true.
how we hear it. It's Ellie listening to it in that cutscene.
I said Ebby a couple of times as well. I've kind of blended Abby and Ellie together.
I didn't want to say anything.
I like to point out when I'm dumb.
If I pointed
people
out when
can
I
laugh.
was Jack, if I pointed out when I was dumb, I would never stop pointing that out.
I mean, to be fair, I don't do it every time. Otherwise, we'd be here all week. Wouldn't we? So
I don't need to point it out for me. It just sort of happens.
it becomes very self-evident. But there was a couple of moments that I did find odd, or just find like, okay, I can see which part of the first game you're trying to emulate. So of course, not only do they bring up the giraffes in the museum,
Yeah.
the whole zebra thing. I feel there was a couple of moments that they were trying to remind you of the giraffes,
Yeah,
with the seal, and with
Yeah,
the
Yeah, there was a few bits like that. I
zebra.
think the zebra thing was obviously supposed to be trying to make you understand that Abby comes from a positive background and they come from a positive group of people.
Absolutely, it was the choice in it being a zebra
Yeah.
that was odd. Did they make it clear that they were near a zoo or anything?
Nope. Not that I
Because
noticed.
I don't know if you're aware.
Zebras aren't really in America.
Yes, they are very much an Africa type thing.
I mean, I guess they're just relying on us remembering that giraffes were in the first one in Salt Lake City. It was in Salt Lake City that you see them, and the only explanation for that is that there was a zoo.
And they've all
But-
escaped, yeah.
There are also other types of animals that you would have seen only in a zoo. There was a lot of giraffes, and there was a lot of monkeys. The kind of
Wasn't in Seattle though, wasn't? They were like being experimented on in the university by the Fireflies. That's why they were there.
Yeah.
the monkeys were out and about. They were all over the place.
They
But I
weren't,
thought that was only in university. I don't think that was.
they weren't in the same place as the giraffes.
No, they weren't. They were only in the university because remember, you find that tape from the Firefly. He gets bitten by one of the infected monkeys.
Yeah.
And that's in the university not long
You are
before.
correct.
It's
You
just
are
before Joel
correct.
gets injured.
There's
But
an entire thing.
I
with
see what you're
giraffes.
saying,
You
like-
assume they've escaped from somewhere, whereas there's this one zebra who's apparently given birth.
I think it's
which would
fair
imply
to
it was
assume.
another zebra.
I think it's fair to assume that the zebra would have escaped from the same zoo the giraffes escaped from. But I know what you mean.
Probably.
It wasn't given an obvious context.
and it was just weird. Like, it would have made more sense if it was just a horse
Or a deer.
or a deer. Yeah, just some like it just felt strange and like a
Liquor.
clear
Nathan.
look. We have nice animals. But yeah, it was particularly odd. And the seal, like, they were both cool moments. Don't get me wrong. Like, separated from the first game, they were both good moments. And like the seal, because they had brought it up beforehand, and it was a nice tie off to that. But yeah, it just in comparison, and the same again. Even though I fucking loved the scene with you riding on the horse through the burning haven.
Yep.
I really like that scene, but obviously, again, straight from the first game.
Yeah.
Where you're, when you're playing as Ellie, running through the town
Yeah,
to get away from
a bit more
everyone.
chaotic. But, yeah, pretty much the same.
There was just a few of those moments, and like, it doesn't take anything away. I'd still rate this game incredibly highly. Doesn't take anything away from me. It was a bit odd. I saw a lot of Uncharted 4 in it as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of Uncharted 4 in it. Lots of points where, like, walking around quiet places and houses and looking at things and putting out white boxes from underneath a desk and stuff like that. And
Writing it all in your diary and drawing pictures.
yep.
That bit, yeah. What? Pulling out white boxes?
There's
What's that got to do with
one of the
Uncharted
I think
4?
it's when you're going in Joel's house looking for something. There's a point where there's a couple of white cardboard crates that you pull out from under a desk and look through.
Oh, you mean like past? You're looking through past stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get what you mean.
Which is like the
The
exact
white
same
boxes
as the
are when you're in the farm. The white boxes are in the farmhouse at the end.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
In Joel's house, it's just his box with his watch and his gun. Yeah, I get. Okay, I get what you mean.
It just had that
I'm
very
in more-
Uncharted 4 looking through the attic and looking through the old mansion kind of feel to it.
Yeah, I meant more gameplay and like the sliding and the.
Oh yeah, there was the sliding. I picked up on the sliding things like, oh, straight out of Uncharted. But then that makes
Sliding.
sense. It's a studio evolving and using new mechanics.
Absolutely. Again, I'm not trying to take away from this game because I saw lots of elements of The Last of Us in Uncharted 4.
Yeah,
Like it's just the way it goes.
absolutely. Would anyone else like to add anything else, or should I sort of head to wrapping up?
I've actually got two questions. One really quick one. What did you
No.
guys give it out of 10?
No. I don't want to answer your
9.8.
question. I gave it a 9.8 in my review.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, you cut out. Were you saying you didn't want to give away too much? Go and watch the review. Or was...
No, I was just winding up Charlie because I was trying to. Anyway. It
Sorry.
didn't work.
I didn't hear anything, so it was wasted on
Yeah,
me.
you cut out. So that's why I interjected.
Yeah, I love Discord.
What was your other question, Charlie?
Do you think's next? Naughty Dog.
New IP.
What do you want? What do you think they'll do?
I think they'll
New
do a new IP.
For both.
Yeah, I think they'll do a new. I don't think they will do a follow up to The Last of Us. Just based off some of the things Neil Druckmann said, I firmly believe that that's not something they're considering at the moment anyway. And if it is, it would be much later. I just think from a business point of view, they wouldn't go straight back into The Last of Us. It would be odd. And Uncharted is absolutely on the back burner for some time. So yeah, I think a new IP is what's coming. And I'm
Uncharted, I don't think we're going to see this entire generation. The Last of Us, I feel, kind of did as well because it had been so long.
Yeah, I think just the nature of what this story is and how this story's gone, I think that anything else being added to this story would be a risk to it, and I just don't see them doing it.
That's why I firmly believe that if anything was being continued from this story across both games for a part 3, it would be Abby.
Absolutely. But
I
don't.
think we'll see Ellie again.
On the flip side of it, I don't want that. I just want them to leave it. But I just want it left.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be curious, I guess, but I would prefer it would just be left. So I do, and yeah, we're not getting Uncharted for a long time. We know that. I think it will be at least PS6 before we get another Uncharted. So I think it's a new IP. Unless they fucking rock up with some mad Jack and Daxter, then I think it's going to be a new IP.
In terms of what's actually physically coming out of Naughty Dog, I think what's coming out of Naughty Dog next is this multiplayer Last of Us game Obviously, that won't be a full big AAA thing. It'll probably be like a £35 title thing. That'll be the next thing we actually physically see from them. But otherwise, hoping it'll be a new IP.
I consider that more of an extension.
Absolutely.
Of The Last of Us.
I also am very on board with the idea of a new IP because, as we've said before, last time Naughty Dog gave us a new IP, we got The Last of Us. So a new IP from them is exciting, and I'm sure Neil Druckmann, Haley Gross, and a whole bunch of other people at that studio have got ideas tinkering around that they'll be experimenting with. And there was an interview.
I'd like to see what Naughty Dog could do with some form of space-based thing.
Space-based thing, absolutely. For me, I think whatever Naughty Dog came out with, whatever the setting was, I would be on board 110%.
Absolutely. It could be a Barbie game, but if it was Naughty Dog, I'd be in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Naughty Dog should make an Action Man game. If you want someone to bring a franchise, like not a franchise, so to speak, in the way we're thinking of it, but like Barbie, Action Man, or what are toys that make me sound less old?
Thunderbirds. Huh? Thunderbirds. Beyblade.
But we're all in the same region here, chaps.
Captain Scarlet.
Other birds. I don't know what action figure things are. I don't know.
I haven't had toys.
Obviously, because I don't buy them.
Yeah.
Like I can only think of Action Man. Like my brain just went Bionicle. No, that was fucking.
I think the only kind of action figure style characters we get nowadays are Fortnite action figures.
Well, yeah, and just
so there you go. Naughty Dog are gonna make a Fortnite.
Please no.
Do you know? I know you're saying about the idea of a space game from Naughty Dog, and I agree it'd be interesting, but
I'll be interested in whatever they do.
I think I would really like them to see a proper spy action thriller, something in the sense of Mission Impossible / James Bond style thing, but with Naughty Dog's level of
elements combining the two.
Yeah.
Of The Last of Us and Uncharted there, because you could do a lot of stealth stuff, which we know they can nail now. You could do a lot more
insane in-depth combat systems and
insane set pieces.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. The set pieces in The Last of Us Part 2.
Pretty good.
There are some fantastic set pieces in that game.
There are.
And I just wanted to mention that a little bit. This has been Press Start and our Last of Us Part 2 Spoilercast in your weekly video game podcast, right here on Rabbit Hole Media. I need to take a breath, just while I take this all in again. Hang on. Rip Joel. If you like what you're doing, and what you've been doing is watching us, you can follow us on Twitter at rabbithole_UK. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, where you can see us anytime that you wish. You can follow us on Twitch at Rabbit Hole Media. And you can subscribe and follow on multiple different podcast services on and around the internet.
Indeed.
And if you would like to support us, head to merch.rabbitholemedia.co.uk, where you can buy a wide-ish range of merchandise that will only get wider. Charlie?
I feel you did the lower thirds a bit early today.
I mainly did them because every time I do them, we finish the bit and then go wait for the lower thirds to finish now. So I thought piping them in like halfway through the episode would be better than piping them in at the end and then just fucking it up.
I kind of like our little moments where we're waiting for the lower thirds.
Charlie, thank you very much for joining us today on the show, even in this strange lockdown situation. Soon we'll be back, Jack, to being in the studio together, and we can touch
This will
each
be the
other.
last episode of Press Start done wirelessly.
Absolutely. What was that, Charlie?
Next week you can do that from, if I'm right in saying.
It is indeed. Jack, your lights have... What has happened?
Yeah, my TV has gone funny.
I see. Charlie, thank you for joining us. Jack, thank you for joining us. I've put your names on the screen. I'm sorry, it was an accident. Is there anything else either of you would like to add just before we sign off?
Play The Last of Us before you pass some form of bigotry upon it.
Absolutely. I agree. I think anyone, regardless of what opinions you think you have on this game, even if you've listened to this without playing it, you've ruined it for yourself a little bit, but you should still go and play it because nothing is quite like the experience of playing that game.
To be fair, like we've spoiled some big stuff, but we haven't spoiled a lot of stuff.
True.
Oh, you
There's-
can still play it and enjoy it after watching this, 100%.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I guess
Absolutely.
Sorry, go on.
I just said absolutely. You carry on.
The only thing I've got to really add in a similar vein to what Jack said, to think about this, if you're watching this and you're the sort of person that throws the term snowflake around on Twitter, if you're that offended by there being gay relationship and a trans person in a game, who's the fucking snowflake?
It's literally what I was saying the other day, that the only people who use the word snowflake in a derogatory manner are the fucking quote-unquote snowflakes.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. But anyway.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for watching. Be kind to each other. Until next time.
Be good to yourself and one another. Love thy neighbor.
Until next time, we shall see you then.
Toodle pip, my bitches.